The breaking news flashing across military intelligence feeds this week marks a stunning, catastrophic reversal for the Russian high command along the southern axis. Over the last 48 hours, Western battlefield monitors and independent tracking data have confirmed that Vladimir Putin's high-stakes spring offensive has not just stalled, it has collapsed into a net loss of over 100 square miles of occupied soil. In a furious response to this battlefield humiliation, Moscow has just unleashed its largest aerial assault of the year, raining 90 advanced missiles, including an Oreshnik intermediate-range ballistic missile and 600 suicide drones across Ukraine. But no amount of long-range terror can mask the grim reality unfolding on the ground, where the Kremlin is facing its sharpest monthly contraction since the autumn of 2023. The epicenter of this sudden seismic shift is the fiercely contested Zaporizhzhia front, an industrial and energy powerhouse that Putin has desperately sought to conquer since the very first hours of the invasion. For 4 long years, the failure to secure this vital gateway has stood as a glaring, unmitigated embarrassment for the Kremlin, a strategic wound that Moscow recently attempted to heal by throwing an astronomical amount of wealth and manpower into the breach. To understand the immense scale of this crisis, one must look at the sheer numbers being poured into this narrow corridor. Russia has drained its vital reserves from other key offensives to mass a staggering striking force of 65,000 elite troops, including premier airborne divisions, Pacific Fleet Marines, and specialized Spetsnaz battalions. This massive concentration of force represents billions of dollars in heavy armor, advanced electronic warfare suites, and specialized training, all funneled into a single, high-stakes gamble designed to finally break the Ukrainian lines. This is the latest blood-soaked chapter in a centuries-old history of friction, where Moscow views the vast Ukrainian steppes as its rightful imperial buffer zone, while Kyiv fights an existential war for national survival. Independent military analysts estimate that the human toll of this imperial ambition has now reached horrific proportions, with overall Russian casualties spanning between 280,000 and 518,000 killed, and a staggering total of 1.5 million soldiers eliminated or wounded since the start of the conflict. Yet despite burning through billions of dollars and decimating the pride of its professional military, the Kremlin's final decisive blow maneuver has completely shattered against a wall of autonomous algorithms and high-tech defense strategies. The entire 65,000-man offensive has now flown directly into a brilliant operational trap, a deadlock that has completely paralyzed Russia's southern strategy and sent shockwaves through the upper echelons of the state. By executing a series of highly synchronized counterattacks, Ukrainian Special Operations Forces have seized the initiative, effectively cutting off the primary staging grounds and leaving massed Russian columns dangerously exposed. As the front lines destabilize and the bodies stack up, the myth of the unstoppable Russian war machine is unraveling in real time, leaving Putin with an impossible dilemma that threatens to destabilize his regime from within. How exactly did a small, professional Ukrainian force manage to completely neutralize a massive, elite combined arms army and turn the Southern Highway into a burning graveyard? The secret to this stunning tactical upset lies in an unassuming point on the map, a tiny concrete fortress known as Stepnohursk. Sitting exactly 18 points 6 miles south of Zaporizhzhia city, this small settlement is the absolute linchpin of the entire southern theater. The geography here is notoriously unforgiving, defined by the vast, flat, and completely featureless southern Ukrainian steppe. In this wide-open landscape, there are no rolling hills or dense forests to shield advancing troops from modern aerial surveillance. The hot, dry late spring weather turns the open earth into a dusty expanse where any movement of heavy armor kicks up massive plumes of white soil visible from miles away. Launching a massive offensive across these exposed plains is an absolute logistical nightmare, which is precisely what makes Stepnohursk so visually and tactically vital. It is one of the very few settlements in this entire sector constructed entirely with multi-story concrete buildings. Like the infamous fortress of Vuhledar, these sturdy structures provide a rare, high-ground defensive outpost in the middle of a flat ocean of dirt. Crucially, Stepnohursk sits directly astride the E105 highway, known locally as the M18. This is a high-speed, heavily paved logistics super artery running from Moscow through mainland Ukraine straight into occupied Crimea. For the Russian military, controlling this highway is the only way to transport the immense volume of heavy armor, fuel, and ammunition needed to sustain their massive 65,000-man offensive, which seeks to sever the remaining supply routes of the Ukrainian defenders. To capture this critical asset, the Russian High Command engineered a slow, agonizing, step-by-step infiltration strategy that played out over several grueling months. Night after night, Russian commanders would dispatch small, isolated fire teams of 5 to 10 men from their forward staging area in Kamyansky, located roughly 7 miles to the south. Moving under the cover of total darkness across the barren fields, these infantry teams would slowly crawl toward the outer perimeter of Stepnohursk. Their objective was to slip into the town undetected, break into the reinforced concrete basements of abandoned buildings, and establish hidden firing positions. When the sun rose, these small teams would open fire, attempting to pin down the defenders and slowly push the front line forward, house by house, block by bloody block. For weeks, this grinding, horrific cycle repeated, turning the town into an unyielding meat grinder where the average mobilized Russian soldier survived only a matter of minutes after arriving at the forward line of contact. But on May 18th, the Ukrainian Military Intelligence Service permanently slammed this door shut. Instead of committing massive, vulnerable armored columns to a costly frontal assault, the Ukrainians unleashed a sophisticated counter-clearance operation spearheaded by their premier tactical scalpels, the elite Artan and Timur Special Operations Units. Operating with flawless coordination alongside local defense brigades, these professional assault groups initiated a rapid house-to-house purge. Supported by real-time aerial reconnaissance, Ukrainian armored vehicles suddenly advanced from the northern intersection of the E-105 highway, punching directly into the town center under a hail of suppression fire. The Ukrainian Special Forces systematically isolated every single concrete building, using precision fire to clear out the embedded Russian teams cellar by cellar. Russian commanders attempted to halt the lightning advance by swarming the sky with explosive drones, but Ukrainian electronic countermeasures successfully blinded and neutralized the threat. Within hours, the town was secured, trapping the Russian vanguard and throwing the entire 65,000-man offensive into absolute chaos. This brilliant tactical victory has created an inescapable operational trap, stretching a deadly 12.4-mile drone and artillery kill zone deep into the Russian rear, making it impossible for the enemy to safely resupply or evacuate their forward positions. Yet all of these masterful maneuvers, defensive depths, and territorial choke points mean absolutely nothing without the actual machines of war that make this industrial-scale slaughter possible. The grand strategy of the Zaporizhzhia trap is forged by the physical specifications of steel and silicon, where theoretical engineering meets the brutal reality of the battlefield. At the forefront of the Russian armored assault is the T-90M Proryev main battle tank, celebrated as the pinnacle of modern mechanized warfare. On paper, this machine weighs over 106,000 pounds, packing a 125mm smoothbore gun, relict explosive reactive armor, and a speed of 37 miles per hour. It was built to shrug off traditional anti-tank missiles and spearhead deep breakthroughs. Yet, actual combat along the southern axis has exposed a fatal structural flaw. The tank's heavy armor layout is optimized purely for frontal engagements, leaving the thin horizontal roof armor of the turret and the rear engine bays catastrophically exposed to the vertical vectors of modern combat. The weapon systematically exploiting this vulnerability is Ukraine's revolutionary wire-guided first-person view drone, spearheaded by the cutting-edge Patoshka drone series. On paper, these agile quadcopters carry a payload of up to 10 pounds of high explosives, flying at speeds exceeding 60 miles per hour. While standard radio-controlled drones are easily disabled by Russia's extensive R-330-Zytel electronic warfare vehicles, the Patoshka completely bypasses the electromagnetic spectrum. It achieves this by trailing an ultra-thin fiber optic cable that unspools from the airframe as it flies, extending across a standard combat range of 12.4 miles, with advanced variants deploying massive 31-mile spools. Because there is no radio frequency for Russian units to jam, and no signal for local radar to detect, these unjammable aerial torpedoes have turned the final mile of Russian supply logistics into a burning graveyard, retaining pristine, high-definition video feeds right up to the millisecond of impact. To counter this aerial dominance, the Russian High Command relies heavily on its Lancet III loitering munition, a system with a range of 25 miles, a speed of 70 miles per hour, and an 11-pound high-explosive warhead guided by an electro-optical nose cone. On paper, the Lancet is a premier hunter designed to destroy high-value assets like mobile artillery behind Ukrainian lines. In the dense concrete grid of Stepnohursk, however, the Lancet has suffered a technical nightmare. Multi-layered mesh cages, anti-drone canopies, and passive wire nets deployed by Ukrainian defense units routinely catch the low-velocity drones before their impact fuses can detonate. Concurrently, highly localized tactical jamming nets easily blind the electro-optical guidance systems, revealing the weapon's extreme vulnerability when denied an absolute clear line of sight. Deep in the operational rear, the conflict shifts into a high-stakes duel of heavy standoff weapons. The United States-supplied M142 HIMARS platform serves as the cornerstone of Ukrainian long-range interdiction, firing guided multiple-launch rocket system munitions. The HIMARS possesses a lethal combat range of 57 miles, delivering a 200-pound unitary fragmentation warhead at speeds of Mach 2.5. On paper, its integrated satellite guidance ensures pinpoint accuracy within 10 feet. In actual combat, intensive Russian satellite signal spoofing via electronic warfare networks initially degraded accuracy, forcing Ukrainian crews to rely heavily on backup inertial navigation systems. However, when paired with real-time aerial drone reconnaissance, the HIMARS has successfully cut the E-105 highway to pieces, striking moving ammunition convoys miles behind the contact line with devastating efficiency. To match this long-range capability, Ukraine has unveiled a massive technological breakthrough. Its first domestically mass-produced precision glide bomb, codenamed the Zaporizhzhia-65, or the Equalizer. Developed under the Brave 1 initiative, this weapon features a 550-pound high-explosive warhead attached to an aerodynamic wing kit and a laser guidance system. Launched from low-flying Su-24 Fencer attack jets executing pop-up maneuvers to evade air defense radar, the Equalizer deploys its wings upon release, gliding across a standoff range of 37 miles to obliterate reinforced command posts. Unlike Western precision bomb kits that cost up to $30,000 apiece, the Equalizer achieves identical combat results at a third of the cost, providing an independent, unsanctionable pipeline of precision devastation. Each piece of hardware tells a story of rapid adaptation, where theoretical manuals are rewritten by blood and fire. But as the smoking hulls of advanced tanks and the severed filaments of fiber optic cables litter the soil of the Zaporizhzhia steppe, a more sobering realization begins to dawn on military strategists. Modern total wars are no longer decided merely by the kinetic exchange of bullets, armor, and missiles, because the true, hidden architecture of this conflict is being fought on an invisible plane of global economic attrition, asymmetric pressure, and political survival. Behind the explosive kinetic clashes on the Zaporizhzhia steppe lies an invisible, far more devastating conflict being waged across the global financial system. The tightening vice of crippling Western economic sanctions and systemic supply chain blockades is finally fracturing the foundation of the Russian war economy. While the Kremlin publicly projects an image of defiant resilience, internal documents paint a stark picture of industrial decay. Russia's Minister of Economic Development, Maxim Reshetnikov, recently conceded that acute labor shortages and sweeping technological embargoes have forced a downward revision of the nation's gross domestic product outlook. To keep the defense industrial complex on life support, Moscow has been burning through its sovereign wealth fund, forcing the state to liquidate physical gold reserves just to pay for foreign microchips. This economic attrition directly chokes the front lines, as specialized factories can no longer source the advanced semiconductors needed to replace complex electronic warfare systems. This industrial stagnation is compounded by a silent, terrifying domestic earthquake, a recruitment crisis that threatens to break the back of the Russian military. The brutal reality of the 12-minute survival time in Stepnohursk has completely shattered the state-sponsored illusion of easy victories, spreading across social media despite the Kremlin's attempts to censor the Telegram platform. The cold, unyielding mathematics of this war are turning against Vladimir Putin. The Russian armed forces are currently burning through 35,000 casualties every single month. Yet, despite offering exorbitant signing bonuses, they are only managing to recruit 27,000 new soldiers. This massive deficit leaves exhausted frontline units dangerously understrength and unable to replace their losses. To make matters worse, the Kremlin's frantic efforts to control the information space by blocking messaging apps and restricting Starlink terminals have backfired, completely severing communications between frontline commanders and their logistics units. At the exact same time, the geopolitical clock is ticking louder in Washington, where a massive political hammer blow is preparing to drop. The Ukraine Support Act has officially crossed the critical 218 signature threshold in the United States House of Representatives, guaranteeing a decisive vote in early June. This impending legislation will unlock over $1 billion in direct, high-end lethal military aid, while simultaneously unleashing a devastating new wave of secondary sanctions designed to completely isolate the foreign banks and shell companies while still helping Moscow bypass trade restrictions. This upcoming influx of Western weaponry ensures that the Ukrainian armed forces will possess an inexhaustible pipeline of precision munitions, just as Russia's own resources are dwindling to critical lows. This leaves the Kremlin trapped in the ultimate strategic paradox, a horrific deadlock where every available choice leads directly to catastrophe. Putin cannot advance because the 12-mile Ukrainian drone kill zone annihilates his troops before they can even see the front line. He cannot safely hold his positions because medium-range artillery strikes are methodically starving his forces of fuel and ammunition. Yet, a tactical withdrawal is completely impossible, as retreating from regions the Kremlin has officially declared annexed would be absolute political suicide, instantly shattering the imperial narrative that justifies this 4-year war to the public. Russia is caught in a massive operational trap of its own making, spending vast fortunes and sacrificing the pride of its youth to achieve nothing but passive attrition. The gate to Zaporizhzhia has been locked, and the land bridge to Crimea is cracking under immense pressure. This leaves us with a critical, defining question. Is the disaster at Stepnohursk the definitive turning point that will trigger a broader collapse of the Russian southern front? Or is it merely a bloody pause before an even more brutal summer offensive? I am incredibly curious to hear what you think about this shifting balance of power, so please sound off with your thoughts in the comments down below. If you want to make sure you never miss out on the breaking events shaping global history, do us a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, and do not forget to turn on the bell icon to get instant notifications whenever our latest deep dive analyses drop. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay vigilant.